3 people. One didn't fit in at school. One was told he couldn't learn. One failed in business. Would you want to be any of them? Probably not. But wait. What if those 3 people were Einstein, Edison, and Disney? Now would you want to be them? Of course. Everyone wants the result. But nobody wants the beginning. And here is the truth, you cannot have one without the other. This is the story of 3 people who had a very hard beginning. And what they did with it. Einstein, the boy who didn't fit. Albert Einstein was born in Germany in 1879. From the beginning, something was different about him. He was slow to talk. Most children start speaking at 1 or 2 years old. Einstein was 3 before he said much. His parents worried. Some people thought something was wrong with him. Then he started school. And school was a problem. He didn't like rules. He didn't like sitting still. He didn't like repeating things without understanding why. He wanted to ask questions. Big questions. Strange questions. Questions that didn't fit in a normal lesson. His teachers didn't like this. One teacher told his father directly. He said, "It doesn't matter what he does. He will never be successful at anything." A teacher. An adult. Someone who was supposed to help him. Saying that he would never be successful. At 15, Einstein left school. He didn't finish. He just left. He tried to get into a university in Switzerland. He failed the entrance exam. He spent another year studying. Tried again. Got in. He studied. He graduated. And then, nothing. He couldn't find a job. He applied for teaching positions. Nobody wanted him. His professors didn't write good letters for him. He ended up working in a patent office. A small, quiet job. Reviewing other people's inventions. He was 23 years old. And it looked like his life was going nowhere. But here is what Einstein did in that small office. He kept thinking. Every day, while he worked, his mind was somewhere else entirely. Thinking about time. About light. About space. About how the universe actually worked. He had a notebook. He wrote things down. He couldn't stop. Even when his life looked like a failure, his mind never stopped. And in 1905, still working in that office, he published 4 scientific papers. 4 papers that changed physics forever. One of them had the most famous equation in history. E = mc². The boy who didn't fit in school. Whose teacher said he would never succeed. Changed how the world understands the universe. Because he never stopped thinking. Edison, the boy who couldn't learn. Thomas Edison was born in Ohio in 1847. School was hard from the start. He couldn't sit still. He got distracted easily. He asked too many questions. His mind jumped from one thing to another constantly. His teacher had a word for him. He called him addled. That means confused. Slow. Not able to think properly. The teacher said this out loud. In front of other students. Edison's mother heard about this. She went to the school. She spoke to the teacher. And then she took her son home. She decided to teach him herself. Every day she told him he was smart. That his curiosity was a gift. That asking questions was good, not bad. She let him read whatever he wanted. He read everything. Science. History. How things worked. He was hungry for information. He built a small laboratory in the basement. He did experiments. He tried things. He broke things. He failed and tried again. He was not someone who sat quietly and repeated what others said. He was someone who had to touch things. Test things. Try again. When he grew up, he started inventing. And then he tried to invent the electric light bulb. He tried more than 1,000 times. More than 1,000 times it didn't work. People around him said, "Stop. It's impossible. You're wasting your time." Edison said something that people still repeat today. He said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that don't work. 10,000 ways that don't work." Most people give up after 5. Or 10. Or 50. Edison kept going. And then one day, it worked. Electric light. Something we use every single day without thinking about it. The boy whose teacher called him slow. Who couldn't sit still in school. Who failed 1,000 times before he succeeded. Lit up the world. Disney, the man who lost everything. Walt Disney was born in Chicago in 1901. He loved drawing from the time he was very small. He drew on everything. Any surface he could find. He decided he wanted to work in art. In animation. In telling stories through pictures that moved. He moved to Kansas City. He started a small animation company. It failed. He went bankrupt. No money. No company. Nothing. He was 22 years old. Most people stop after something like that. One big failure at 22 is enough to change your whole direction. Enough to say, "Okay, that's not for me." Disney didn't stop. He moved to Hollywood. He started again. He created a new character. A small friendly rabbit called Oswald. Oswald became popular. People liked him. Things were going well. And then a distribution company took Oswald away from him. They owned the rights to the character. Not Disney. So they just took it. And took most of his team at the same time. He lost his character. He lost his people. He lost most of his business. Again. He was on a train home when this happened. His wife was with him. She said he was very quiet. Just thinking. And somewhere on that train, he created a new character. A small mouse. With big ears and a big personality. He called him Mickey. Mickey Mouse changed everything. But even then it wasn't easy. Disney wanted to make a full-long film. A real story, not just a short cartoon. He started working on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. People in the industry called it Disney's folly. A folly means a stupid mistake. Something that will obviously fail. They said nobody would sit through a full cartoon film. Too long. Too expensive. Too risky. Snow White came out in 1937. It was the most successful film of that year. People cried. They laughed. They came back to see it again and again. Disney's folly became a masterpiece. The man who went bankrupt at 22. Who lost his first character. Who was told his dream was foolish. Built one of the most loved companies in the history of the world. Because he kept drawing. Even when everything was taken away. What they all had in common. 3 different people. 3 different times. 3 different kinds of failure. But when you look closely, you see the same things in all 3 stories. The first thing. They didn't believe the people who said they couldn't do it. Einstein's teacher said he would never succeed. Edison's teacher called him slow. Disney's colleagues called his ideas stupid. All of them were wrong. But here is the important thing. Einstein, Edison, and Disney didn't know they were going to prove those people wrong. They weren't standing there thinking, just wait, I will show you all. They just couldn't stop. Something inside them kept going. Even when the outside world said stop. The second thing. They failed many times. Not once. Not twice. Many times. And this is the part most people don't want to hear. Because most people think that successful people are people who failed less. Or people who failed and then quickly succeeded. That's not the story. Edison failed 1,000 times before the light bulb worked. Disney lost 2 companies before he built his third. Einstein spent years in a small office going nowhere before his papers changed the world. Failure wasn't an obstacle on the way to success. Failure was part of the road itself. The third thing. They stayed close to what they loved. Edison loved understanding how things worked. He never stopped experimenting. Disney loved drawing and storytelling. Even when he was broke, he was drawing. Einstein loved thinking about the universe. Even in a small quiet office, he was thinking. The love didn't go away when things got hard. Because when you genuinely love something, failure doesn't feel like a reason to stop. It feels like information. Like, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something else. What happened because they didn't stop? Let's look at what their persistence actually created. Einstein's ideas changed science forever. His theory of relativity changed how we understand time, space, and energy. Without his work, GPS technology wouldn't exist. Modern physics wouldn't exist. Our understanding of the universe would be completely different. The boy who failed his university entrance exam. Edison's light bulb changed daily life for every person on the planet. But that wasn't his only invention. He created over 1,000 patents in his lifetime. The phonograph. Improvements to the telegraph. Early motion picture technology. He didn't just invent one thing, he built a system for inventing things. The boy whose teacher said he couldn't learn. Disney created Mickey Mouse, Snow White, Fantasia, Bambi, Cinderella, and dozens of other films that generations of children grew up with. He built Disneyland. He changed what animation could be. He changed what storytelling could be. His company is still one of the biggest entertainment companies in the world today. The man who went bankrupt at 22. None of this happened because life was easy for them. All of this happened because they didn't stop when life was hard. What this means for you. Now let's make this personal. Maybe you are learning English right now and it feels slow. Maybe you have been trying for months and you still can't speak the way you want to. Maybe you tried to say something recently and it came out wrong. And you felt embarrassed. And you thought, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe someone told you that you're not good at languages. A teacher. A friend. Or just a voice in your own head. Here's what Einstein, Edison, and Disney would say to that. Good. You are in exactly the right place. Not because it's fun to struggle. Not because being slow is something to celebrate. But because that feeling you have right now, that frustrated, uncertain, slow feeling, is exactly the feeling they had too. And they kept going. So here is what you can do. Do what Edison did. Don't count your failures. Count your attempts. Every time you try to speak English and it doesn't come out right, that's not a failure. That's one more attempt. One step closer to the version that works. Do what Einstein did. Keep thinking in English. Even quietly. Even in your head. Even when no one is listening. Talk to yourself. Describe what you see. Ask yourself questions. Don't stop the thinking just because the result isn't perfect yet. Do what Disney did. Start again. Every time. If you stopped practicing for a week, start again today. If you had a bad lesson, try a different approach tomorrow. If one method doesn't work, find another one. Starting again is not losing. Starting again is just continuing. The last thought. 3 people. One didn't fit in at school. One was told he couldn't learn. One failed in business. Einstein. Edison. Disney. They didn't succeed because life was easy for them. They succeeded because they didn't stop when life was hard. And here is the thing about their stories that nobody talks about enough. They didn't know it was going to work. Einstein didn't sit in that patent office thinking, don't worry, in a few years I will be the most famous scientist in history. Edison didn't stand in front of his failed experiment number 999 thinking, just one more and I've got it. Disney didn't get on that train after losing Oswald thinking, it's fine, Mickey Mouse is about to change the world. They just kept going. Without knowing the end of the story. And that is the hardest part. And the most important part. You don't know how your story ends either. You don't know what happens if you keep going. But you do know what happens if you stop. Nothing. So keep going. One more attempt. One more lesson. One more day. You are in good company. The best company, actually. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and subscribe.